What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I tell you what, this is a subject that I get asked quite often. What knots do you choose, or what knots are your favorite knots to tie? Now, there's a lot of different knots out there. I'm not going to say there's not better knots out there, but I have 4 main knots that I tie on any tournament day, or any given tournament day, and I'm going to dive into it over the next 4 weeks. So the first knot is a knot that you probably know of. It's probably the most tied knot out there in the bass fishing world. It's the Palomar Knot. And the thing about this knot, it's a little bit weird sometimes because I've seen where if you tie it incorrectly on fluorocarbon, where it will cut through the fluorocarbon really bad and you'll break a lot of fish off. So I'm gonna teach you how I personally tie it and what works for me. Let's jump into it right now.
Oh my gosh.
Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is grab some fluorocarbon. This is 30 pound, which is not what I normally use. I'm going to use this little smaller profile, or actually like a bigger loop. This is actually a plug knocker that I bought randomly. I don't even know where. I think I got it somewhere down in Guntersville. Anyway, it just got a bigger loop so you can ultimately see it. And the big thing with a Palomar knot is the issue with a lot of people is people end up breaking their fluorocarbon. A monofilament, it works fine. Fluorocarbon, it works fine. In braid, it works fine. It just, you have to understand the knot and the science behind it. And I'm not gonna say I understand this, it just works for me ultimately. So let's get started real quick here. Let me get the end of this guy right here. And so I'm just gonna go through the loop, whatever loop you have, go back through the loop, just like this. And then here is where everything's good to go right there. I'm gonna do an overhand knot, bring that loop back through, go through. Now this is the issue with the Palomar knot and fluorocarbon, is when you go, you're gonna take this whole loop with your hand and go underneath whatever that lure is, or that hook or whatever, and ultimately wrap it. The issue is when people go to cinch it down right here, this little loop right here is actually what cuts into your fluorocarbon, okay? This is the process. This right here is the most important part of tying this knot. You have to take your fingers at this point and flip it over. I'll show it real quick. Bam. So just flip that over. It might be a little bit more coarse just because of it being heavier line. I want to show you guys that. So flip that little loop over to the top side, okay? So I'm gonna wet it. I'm gonna cinch him down. And you see that loop comes over the top of it, not inside of it. That is the big key. What happens is, the way that loop lies within the knot, and I'll tighten this guy down, what happens is it actually cuts into the fluorocarbon. Now, you don't have that issue as much with monofilament, but a lot of people aren't using monofilament as much as fluorocarbon this day and age, so that's why they're having an issue with it. I can count on one hand over the last 3 to 5 years how many times I've broken this knot. Now, last year during the exact deal, like during a tournament, I got too excited. And I'll tie this knot real quick here. Hold on one second. I'll tie it the wrong way to show you not what to do. So I'm gonna tie this the wrong way. And what I mean by this is the way you guys just understand. Do not do this. So Brody put, when I go through here, say do not. Okay, so I'll go back through just like that. And I've been tying this knot since I was like 6 years old. It's one of the easiest knots to tie. Just double him over, tie your knot, go back through, and it's an easy process right here. Okay, the worst thing you can do not do this. See where that loop's at? I told you just to flip it up. If you cinch that down and you do this, last year I broke off a key fish in the first round of a Major League Fishing event because I did just that. I got in a hurry and I did not flip that loop over to where it was cutting into it. And guess what happened? When I went to set the hook, I pulled it, and 30 pound fluorocarbon is probably not gonna break, but I pulled it, snap set, bam, broke the knot. And I'm like, gosh dang it. So do not take your time. I'm gonna tie this one more time, show you guys the most important part of this knot. Again, go back through, Go through. All right, overhand knot, loop, go underneath, process. And I always put my finger right there to remember, and then bring 2 fingers in that loop right there. Flip this knot. I try to bring it around. Boom. That right there is the most important part. Make sure, wet it a little bit, and then tighten them down. And the other issue that I see a lot of people make when they tie knots is making sure you tighten your knot. So with a lot of beginners, what happens is they'll tighten their knot down, they'll pull on it, and it'll still be loose in here. And what'll happen, what they end up doing, is they'll take their scissors and they'll cut it way down right there, okay? They'll cut it way down to where ultimately there's very little tag line left, which is what you want to normally do because you don't want it to catch on things and whatnot. But the issue is, as soon as you go to pull and that knot will actually come undone. That is one of the biggest issues with knot tying as well, is actually cinching down your knot. So that is the Palomar knot, and this one is probably my favorite, hands down, most tied knot that I tie. But understanding those, that is the #1 thing with tying this knot. All right, guys. Hey, Palomar knot is probably my most used knot. I love it. Works for me, but there's a lot of different other knots out there. Drop a comment below your most used knot. Thank you guys so much for following along the channel. Next week, we have a completely different knot for a completely different application. See you guys soon.